It's tabletop time.
I'm Jazza.
I'm a statue because that's what we're painting today.
You made a very cool statue that from a print I gave you. The way you painted it up, I made my 3D sculpted, VR sculpted Space Marine. And when I popped around the hobby shop, you'd done like this like iron statue with like the verdigris, is that what it's called? Like the rust and like some like really cool detail.
And then I sort of done like little barricades around the base of it because it's an imperial city in 40k, so they're all like using it as a last redoubt. They can stand under the statue and fight.
I love it. It was really cool, and it just sort of got me thinking and us discussing what are some other really cool ways you can use miniatures but turn them into props and set pieces.
Today's video is sponsored by Hero Forge, and one of the things I really wanted to show is how that tool, which traditionally a lot of people go, oh, well, I'll make my D&D mini with it. You can use it for so many things. Like when you think outside the box, the wonderful thing with 3D models is you can scale them, you can flip them, you can change that. Yeah.
So good. So let's jump into it from the very beginning.
So with all of the models, what I did is I took that Hero Forge model and then I glued it onto various carved foam block bases that would better represent the idea of a statue on the battlefield. Two of these were simple cubes just to give it a bit of height, and then I kind of made a little stairwell or steps leading up to the Egyptian themed one. But the Roman one just made sense on a perfectly square plinth just to give it that elevation. With the other two, Jazza had carved this really cool display plinth, so I had a pretty good idea of which one I was going to use that on, which was going to be the Blood Bowl Orc, and I'll explain a bit more of that when I get to him in detail. But finally, I kind of rough hew just carved out this weird approach to some kind of shrine or ancient place of worship, but I did it pretty roughly and pretty quickly, knowing I was going to cover the bulk of it in texture paints. So taking some classical examples of statues, one of the ones that initially jumped into my mind was the idea of like a sandstone statue from ancient Egyptian ruins. And I had often thought, how could I blend these things into 40k? And in that process of discovery, while I was working with Hero Forge, I realized you could have half arms and half faces in different sort of styles. So I could have a skull face and a bone arm. And the idea struck me of Necrons living under Tomb Worlds. So for those who aren't into 40k, Necrons are basically robots like the Terminator from the Terminator movies that are horrible and try and kill all of people, but vaguely they look like humans and they're often buried in tombs. So that's what I was going to go for. I went for a super easy to achieve method to paint this that I think would be really good. Anyone who's trying to do a whole sandstone table, this would be a really good method. Basically just using the Hero Forge model with some foam and then blending it all with AK Interactive Light Earth diorama paste, which was kind of part sealant, part sand effect basically, but it blended everything together. And I even put some of that on top of the Hero Forge model itself to give the feeling that this thing had been sitting there weathering for thousands of years. Now, where I had put the bone elements, my thought was that the casing, the stone casing, had crumbled away due to time and revealed that it was actually a Necron robot disguised as a statue. However, I neglected to tell Jazza this plan prior to giving them all to him to print and saying, print them all at 2-up. So basically we have this massively out of scale, weird Terminator robot in an Egyptian structure. It's a cool concept, maybe a lesson learnt there in trying to be a little bit too ambitious with what I was trying to represent. But nevertheless, it's at least interesting. It would make for certainly some kind of good objective marker in a game of Warhammer. You ready to see the Egyptian one?
Take me to Egypt, baby.
Just think lots of them on a quickly made gaming board. There you go!
Why? That's sick. I love that. I like that you've mixed the Necron metals in there too, like
his bits crumbling off.
I like it.
The thing with this one,
the texture's great,
is I super love it. But you have to get across that when you see those Egyptian sandstone sculptures, they are just the same as the terrain they're in. So it's like very simple, but that's the point. When you see those Egyptian ruins, it's just all like the same tones of color.
It's cool too because it's like nicely punctuated with a feature. And I think it's sort of nice to sort of highlight that from a design perspective. It's good to pick one or two things to be like, attention here. And for this, it's clearly like the face and the arm. It's like there's a civilization, there's a story, there's, you know, and also there's details in the face that brings your eye into, and it works really well. So next you worked on the
other side of the pond, the Greco-roman statue. You just go from Egypt up north a little bit.
Yeah.
The next of the smaller scale ones I worked on was the Roman or Greco-roman themed statue. This was the woman holding a spear aloft. I knew immediately that I wanted to get a bit violent with this Hero Forge model, so once it was printed, I grabbed the clippers and clipped both ends of the spear off and also snapped her arm off. Unfortunately, her arm shot across the Tabletop Time studio at high speed, shattered into about 3 pieces, of which I could only find one, which was the mid part of her arm. So I have no idea where the little potions she was holding went, because the plan was they were going to be glued onto the base. The statue had broken with the years, but unfortunately, I guess that was so broken, it was never to be seen again. I played with a lot of new things on this one. I actually grabbed out streaking grime as well as rain effects from Vallejo's weathering range, and it was really fun to get to use them and the airbrush thinner to sort of dull them back once I'd painted the statue. The statue effect itself was fairly simple with some dry brushing, but what made it was definitely trying to create that sense that it was in the weather. When you think of a statue that's been left outside for a long time, that's what I was trying to evoke with this one. But there was one thing that a statue that is sat outside for a very long period of time needs to have. And that's a lot of bird poo. So I set about getting some greens and whites and mixing like streaks of poop down this thing's head, which, you know, I thought it worked. Certainly, it was fun to do. It was one of those joyful moments in the hobby where I got to pretend I was like a baby and laughing at the fact that I was putting poo on this thing's head. So hey, real mature. Real mature hobby. The final touches for this was to paint the little bird on the base. A beautiful little songbird, maybe the culprit of the poo that cakes the lady's head. But either way, quick paint job on that, as well as the fallen autumn leaves. Finishing touches was to stretch some of this flock material that I found in the studio to kind of look like creeping vines coming up the sides of the plinth. And that ends our Greco-Roman statue.
And the end result is... Oh my god! That's sick! The marbling is really cool. How did you do that? I mean, you just watched him explain it, but now I get the sympathy.
So most of that's actually where I tried out streaking grime and weathering effects and stuff. So
little birdie!
Yeah, and you'll notice the birds left some presents on all over the head of the statue.
I love it so much. That is so sick. Well done. Absolutely love it. What's next on the agenda?
Next on the agenda is a big thing.
A big thing.
A big bone thing.
Ooh.
This is on the opposite end of the spectrum. Using the wings from Hero Forge, sort of sweeping in and giving it that silhouette, I made what I think is a pretty cool and pretty dark shrine out in the middle of nowhere of this like immaculately carved stone angel of death. Maybe stone angel of death. Maybe it's just an angel of death. I don't know. Of course, none of this would have been possible without the amazing tool provided by our sponsor today, Hero Forge. Hero Forge is a comprehensive character creation tool online for you to create your own D&D or other role-playing game characters. It has dozens of species, full customization through the face, the body, to what clothes and gear they're using, with over 1,000 options for what you can choose from. They've recently added wheelchairs to the mix, which is just amazing for inclusivity. They've now added the ability for you to actually print in color after you've painted this. So they will provide to you a premium plastic model that has the color imprinted into it, which to me, it just boggles my mind. Like, the idea behind that is amazing. I absolutely love it. They also have, you can get your model cast in bronze, which is just the coolest way to remember those iconic, like, multi-year campaign D&D models. If you want to check out Hero Forge, we've got a code for 10% off digital prints, Tabletop Time, as well as 10% off their premium plastic printed models, which is Tabletop Time Plastic. So make sure you click the links in the description, dive on in, use those codes, and grab your models, taking advantage of that awesome offer. I'm sure you'll absolutely love Hero Forge as much as I do. It is my go-to tool for any of my D&D character creation, NPC creation, even monsters and crazy stuff that I like to throw at my players. Dive in there and check it out. Painting this was just a series of dry brushing and slapping on some cool new effects that I hadn't used before, including the Vallejo thick mud, the wet mud that I used to finalize the dirt area and kind of slap that down those sheer slopes. So you can almost imagine that this terrain is quite moist or damp, like the Scottish Highlands or Celtic area, and the sides after a rain are just a slick of mud, and you have to go up these sort of old rough shod steps to get to the shrine. There were candles all over the base, and originally when I made them I wasn't sure what I was going to do with them, but I decided to quickly paint them up as if they were actually lit candles. So just with some dry brushes and a very quick OSL technique, remembering of course these are meant to be accessible terrain features. This isn't something where I'm trying to make a showcase piece. These are statues for wargaming and things to put on your gaming table. So there was an element of making sure that what I was doing was accessible and easy and quick, so that if I did want to do a whole table, I could, well, quickly within a day do a whole set of terrain that matched. So with that said, it was just a simple dry brushing technique to get the multiple orange colors, just to give the illusion of a glow to those candles so they didn't look completely flat. And it added a little bit of warmth to the bottom of the scene, which didn't go unnoticed.
Oh my god! Oh
Yeah.
my god.
It's okay, I guess.
Design feature. Again, what I'm saying, like that punchy sort of like the candles add so much mood. It's clear that the silhouette of this thing is like, it's overwhelming and overbearing, and that's kind of the point. But then it's like, actually you've sort of taken the attention to mood by painting the candles like that.
Another amazing example of playing with things. So these sides, this is Vallejo wet muds and thick muds down on the edges that give it that texture, and just playing with, again, like various different colors and pigments, and starting to get used to slapping that stuff on.
Love it. Next
up, I am going to be doing something a bit different. Another use of the statue, but not in the way you might traditionally think. When I was making this model, I knew I wanted to make something to represent the brass sculpture that we typically would see in modern cities. Upon seeing the options available in Hero Forge, that spiked football just sang to me, and I was like, this has to be a Blood Bowl model. This is like a star player in Blood Bowl who's had his sculpted statue. I mean, if you're into the setting of Blood Bowl, it would make sense that humans would sculpt a statue of an orc if he's that good a Blood Bowl player. Seeing that display plinth that Jazza had made, my brain just went, what if we could use these for more than just wargaming terrain? As a game store owner, I've actually thought about this a few times, like, oh, I'd love to have a trophy for like a league or a game. I think I found it. I used a little bit of like textured putty to sort of seal up that foam appearance on the base, painted it to kind of roughly resemble like a wooden plinth, and then glued on the orc and painted him in a simple brass technique. If you had a nameplate on the front of this, I would have put together a really cool Blood Bowl trophy. That's pretty affordable and very cool, and something I think most gaming clubs and most people with access to a 3D printer would be sort of easily able to get their hands on it. And now we can go and make trophies. Congratulations on coming first in the Blood Bowl tournament.
Whoa!
There you go.
Bro, that's amazing. I really need to learn how to play Blood Bowl now.
I can earn the winning. But
That's sick. I love the way you made this look like wood too.
It was just the plinth looked cool, and I was like, well, what if you can make a trophy?
I mean, local hobby shops, take note.
You can make that for less than $20.
This is like Golden Demon-esque. Like that, just that aesthetic of like the way that the brass has come together. I really am excited to watch this video and what they just watched and know how you got
contrast paint.
Yeah.
I don't even think I said that.
Really?
No. It's contrast paint.
Thank you, Hero Forge, for sponsoring this video. As you can see, very versatile tool and really cool stuff you can do it outside of just making your minis.
You know who gets first place? Hero Forge gets first place.
Oh,
there you go.
Speaking of thanks.
Thank you to all our patrons. Thank you to your support. It is so cool because this video was filmed in the new studio, and all of this stuff has been made possible through your guys' support and me being here to do more videos and make more content. It's all happening, people. It's all happening.
It's so exciting.
And I just say to all of you out there, have a day like I had today. Go grab random stuff you've never used before that might be sitting around or you're not too familiar with. Get a concept and just bash out some cool things. See what you can make. Making terrain is so fun for that, like one-off projects. And I strongly encourage you all to just dive in and give it a crack.
Do you want to do the final sign-off?
Sure. If I'm into it.
Do you know the official? Can you do the official sign-off, please? And go.
Okay. Is this the one where we awkwardly pause for a bit?
Should we do like...
Or did you want the like and subscribe one? The YouTube one or the...
What if we finish by finishing each other's
sandwiches?
Finishing each other's...
I'm gluten intolerant. I can't eat your sandwich. I'm sorry.
Did you bring a sandwich? You didn't bring me a sandwich. Ooh, you did. I'll do